Alright, another long drive, so might as well ramble on here. This is an even longer drive than the other day. This is driving down to that house that I was telling you about. The tenant tore this house up totally. Like, there's a lot of work. Like I said, I'm probably going to spend somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 hiring contractors, but I'm also spending plenty of time doing work myself there. So I'm heading down there right now. I could do the video about real estate and cautionary tales about how it's not always what it's cracked up to be. And I think I've talked about that before, and I'll talk about it again. But that's not what this video is about. I still do think real estate, all in all, is a good investment. I think really the stock market's a good investment too. I think really it's just a matter of saving your money and investing, period. I don't think now of course there are categories of things that are bad investments. Gambling on going to Vegas and gambling, that's a bad investment. Just to give you an extreme example. So it's not like there aren't bad investments, but if you're relatively smart about your investments, I think there's a lot of different ways that you can invest that are good. It's just a matter, I think the biggest obstacle is just actually having a mindset of investing some percentage of your income every month will pay dividends in the long run. But no, what this video is about is it's about the fact that Donald Trump is full of shit. Now, if you're watching me for the first time and you see me say that, you probably think I'm some kind of like Trump hater. I'm a liberal. I'm a leftist. But no, I'm actually a huge Trump supporter. I might be one of the biggest supporters of Trump there is. And I'm a lifelong conservative. Always have been, always will be. But I am not a brain-dead zombie. I do have some thoughts about Trump that are my own, that hardcore MAGA people that are basically just brain dead zombies. It's either that they're brain dead zombies, or I think in some cases just that they hate the left so much and they oppose the left so much, which they should, because the left is terrible. But they oppose the left so much that they just won't give an inch, because to them it's a sign of weakness to ever say that you disagree with anything Trump does. So it's just because of this war against the left that they're never going to criticize Trump. But a lot of my criticism of Trump and a lot of my saying that he's full of shit actually comes from the right. I think I'm actually more to the right of Trump, because some of the stuff he says that he's just full of shit on, I'd be serious about myself. Now, granted, maybe in some way he is serious about them, but like he would like for some of this stuff to happen. But he has to know full well that some of this stuff, when he's claiming it's going to happen, it's just not going to happen, because that's just the reality of the world. Like, take Greenland. He gets his followers all hyped up about this idea that we're going to annex Greenland. And I'm hyped up about it. I think it's a great idea. But what I'm trying to tell you is that he's full of shit. He has no intention of annexing Greenland. He knows that it's not possible. So he's a brilliant politician, but the problem is he gets into power and he becomes the president, and he's still doing things for political reasons. He's still doing things just to play to his base, you know? He says things that he knows his base is just gonna love, and it's just like he's just like a con artist, or he's just a salesman. He was car salesman. He just says this stuff because he knows it's gonna play, and he knows it's not gonna happen. Another example is this Gaza thing. That we should move the Palestinians out of Gaza. Well, we should, because the unfortunate fact is these people are so whacked out. They're so extreme. I mean, these people, it's hard to even overstate how insane these people are. These people will throw babies into ovens. They'll slit the throat of babies. They'll suffocate babies, which they did do to those baby hostages. They're absolutely sick, twisted people that can never be negotiated with, can never be reasoned with. You can never live side by side. Don't talk to me about some bullshit about Northern Ireland. These people are not Northern Ireland Catholics or Protestants, okay? This is a totally, totally different thing. The only way this problem would ever be solved long term is to remove them from the area and disperse them amongst other Arab countries so that they're not able to organize and do horrific deeds against Jews, get them away from the Jews. That's the reality. And we're trapped in this era of history where we can't do what needs to be done. If this was any other area of history, they would have lost, just like they've lost like 10 wars in a row. The first war they lost, they would have been driven out of there. Or they at least would have been put under a boot such that they couldn't keep doing this stuff. So Trump's absolutely right that that's what should happen. But he has no intention of actually making that happen. I mean, because he's not willing to pay the price. He says he wants to do all this stuff, but then he also says that he wants to be like the biggest peacenik in history and not get into a war. So he's kind of like, he's painted himself into a corner, really, because doing what he wants to in Gaza would actually require like aggression and boldness and basically tell a lot of people, yeah, fuck you, I'm doing it. What are you going to do about it? But he's not going to do that because he wants to be known as the peace guy. So it's really just bullshit. Now, an optimistic viewpoint that a lot of people will put out there, people that defend everything he does, is, oh, well, he's playing 4D chess. This is just an opening gambit. This is just, the opening offer. But I don't think so, because he does this thing where, like, I'm sad to say I'm not even sure he's that great of a negotiator, because I think what he does is he's obsessed with presenting himself as winning. So what he does is he paints himself into a corner where he gets into this confrontation with somebody, and if the person doesn't just back down immediately, now sometimes that does happen, it's great that the person backs down immediately, but I feel like once the person gives pushback and it could get messy for him, and he can't just necessarily win, it's going to be a protracted struggle, he'll just basically cave, so then he can just go tell his supporters that he got the win, Like, I feel like he did that with the Ukraine minerals thing. They originally presented this offer to Ukraine and were like, you better take this, blah, blah, blah. And it was relatively favorable to the U.S. Well, then when Ukraine wouldn't accept it, then he basically just accepted some deal that's like, we get nothing, really. It's basically just, the whole thing is kind of like bullshit, but if anything, it favors Ukraine. And then he's like, see, I won, I did it. I made Ukraine sign the deal. Well, no, you didn't. You didn't make Ukraine sign the deal that you offered. You agreed to a much worse thing, and now you're just declaring victory. And it's like the same thing, like, he's not gonna actually push for this Gaza thing. He's gonna friggin' put this out there, and then the Arabs are gonna be like, oh no, how about we just stick with the same shit, and that way we get to kill Jews again in 10 years. And he's gonna be like, yep, we did it, we did the deal. It's like, why? No, you didn't do the deal that you were saying. It's the same thing with Greenland. He already backed off in his State of the Union. He now says it's up to the Greenlanders. Well, I mean, if you're a superpower of 350 million people and you want Greenland, saying that it's up to the 60,000 Greenlanders, that's basically an admission of defeat, that you're not going to get Greenland. You're not going to exercise your leverage and power to get it. So, but of course his supporters, like, everybody is just so whacked out about Trump that it's hard to find reasonable opinions about him. because his supporters will just say everything was a win. Oh yeah, that was his plan all along, was to not get Greenland and not get anything. It's like, what? No. But then you'll have his detractors will just say that everything he did was stupid and hard, and immoral, and he's a reprobate, and he's just a horrible person, and he's stupid, and he didn't do anything right, which isn't true either. And yeah, it's like the Ukrainians. I'm really loath. I'm kind of like in a holding pattern in offering my opinion on Ukraine, because one thing I'm sure of is that the Europeans are weaselly, disgusting pricks that hate us, and they just want our money, and any chance they get to talk shit about us, they do. And so the idea of telling them to pound sand and not paying for their defense and stuff, that is all like 100% great. But this business of basically selling Ukraine down the river just so Donald Trump can say he was a peacemaker, I hope that's not what's happening. I hope that this is all for public consumption, and behind closed doors, he's going to negotiate hard with Russia and try to get the best deal possible for Ukraine. That's what I'm assuming still. But it is really concerning the number of people in his orbit that just have like absolutely insane foreign policy beliefs, like Tucker Carlson. I used to be a huge Tucker Carlson fan, and then he started either adopting these bizarre foreign policy ideas or finally feeling comfortable enough to reveal them after he left Fox. But I think Tucker Carlson's insane. Of course, there's still going to be things he's going to say that I agree with, but the main thrust of what he's saying right now, like what he's focused on, I think he's just totally off his rocker. And so I really, and he apparently has serious influence on Trump. And so it's scary. But yeah, with the Gaza thing, it's really easy. Like if you're a naive person and you're an optimistic person even, to be like, yeah, it's gonna be good this time, the Arabs are gonna go in, they're gonna make sure that Hamas isn't doing bad stuff, and they're gonna clean the place up and everything's gonna be good. But that literally is the exact same thing we've been doing for the past 75 years. That's not going to do anything, because although these Arab countries are not as crazy as Hamas, and they do have economic interests that cause them to want to cooperate with the U.S. to a certain extent, they are still all in on hating the Jews and wanting to destroy Israel, in their heart. Like even the ones that have signed peace treaties, you see Egypt and Jordan, they're still like all in on Hamas. They're all in on the Palestinians. And keep in mind that this war was started by a terrorist act where babies were thrown into ovens and women were raped. And it was just a disgusting, disgusting thing. And Jordan's all in on being pro-Palestinian. There's no like, oh yeah, I can understand why the Israelis need to do this. No, it's the Israelis are terrible for doing this. I mean, really? I mean, come on. There are no moderate Muslims when it comes to much of anything, really. But there are no moderate Muslims when it comes to the Palestinians. They're not gonna clean the place up. They're not gonna stop them from teaching that it's good to kill Jews in their schools and stuff. The only way that Israel's ever gonna get peace is by winning. And I think that, I don't know what the conversations were in Israel, but I think that it was really unfortunate that Joe Biden was president when October 7th started, because I think that the right off the bat, the Israelis should have, it's kind of like sad to say that it was an opportunity, but when something like that is an opportunity, something like October 7th happens, it's an opportunity to get some kind of finality to this. You have the leeway to strike back, and right then they should have said we're annexing northern Gaza. That's the punishment for doing this. We're evacuating all the Palestinians to southern Gaza, and we're annexing northern Gaza, or vice versa. We're evacuating everyone to northern Gaza, and we're annexing southern Gaza, because there has to be some real tangible punishment that they care about. They don't care about their people dying. They don't care about. In fact, Hamas's whole strategy is for the people to die, so then they can say, "Look, Israel killed us. Oh, they're bad." You know, they responded to us slaughtering babies and raping women, and actually killed us. So they're the bad guys. So they like when their civilians get killed. That's like basically part of their plan. And so they don't care about that. The only thing they care about is the land. So that should have been the punishment. Well, you know, Biden was president, so he probably wouldn't have allowed that. And now it's like, you know, that ship has sailed, I guess. But it is a difficult thing, because what are you going to do with 2 million people? Like, somebody has to be willing to take them. And so if the Arabs just put up a united front and say, we're just not willing to do it, then what can you do? They have this they have this knife in the back of Israel, and it's like, how do you remedy this? It would take like bold American leadership. It's like, you're doing this, you know. We'll do this by force if we have to. But I don't think Trump is willing to do that at all. I think he actually, I think he really is a consummate deal maker. Like, he acts like he's gonna force these things to happen. And from an American patriot's point of view, like me, it's like, you're happy to hear it. Like, yeah, we're gonna do this, man. We're gonna get Greenland. We're gonna take back the Panama Canal. We're gonna, you know, put somebody on Mars and stuff. But I don't think he really thinks like that. I think he's just like, A, like I said, playing to the base, and B, he ultimately just wants to like get along with people. He uses this as a tactic, but he's actually willing to like get rolled, basically, just to make a deal. I think sometimes. I don't know. Overall, I love a lot of what's happening, but I also am really recognizing that there's a lot of just bullshit along with it. Like, even with the Doge stuff, I worry that there's a lot of bullshit. Like, when they came out with this idea of the $5,000 checks, I was like, what? So we had massive inflation because the government spent way too much money, and they also just sent checks out to people during COVID, which was like not what was needed. The supply chains were shut down, so nobody could buy anything, and yet you send them checks. That's like the perfect recipe for inflation. And now the Doge thing, they were going to save money and balance the budget. We were going to start paying down the debt. Everything sounded great. And then they say, oh no, we're not going to pay down the debt. We're just going to send everybody $5,000 checks. We're just vote buying, and we're going to cause more inflation by just printing money. Like, what? Like, I get this conceptually, it's the taxpayers' money. Well, okay, yeah, but the taxpayers are in debt regardless. I don't want $5,000. I want you to actually get this country run properly again. I don't want interest payments on debt to be our number one budget item. You know, I thought that's what we were doing here. It's just a lot of it. It's like you get your hopes up that it's going to be something great, and then you're disappointed. Now, keep in mind, he's still 1 billion times better than the left. The left's absolutely insane. They live on another planet. But yeah, he's not perfect either.